A warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, on Saturday, that is tomorrow, Mauritanians will vote for a new president in what is expected to be the West African country's first ever peaceful transfer of power since independence from France in 1960. President Mohammed Ould Aziz will step down after serving 2-year, 5 terms since he took over power in a coup in 2008, resisting a trend in which post-colonial African leaders have sought to extend their rule beyond constitutional limits. Now, there are 6 presidential candidates, including a prominent anti-slavery campaigner and a former prime minister. Most of them face widespread discontent among young people in the country who see few prospects in the vast, thinly populated desert nation where less than 1% of the land there is actually arable.
Yeah, Jerry. Well, Saturday's election marked a transition period between outgoing President Mohammed Ould Abdel Aziz and his successor. Our correspondent in Nouakchott, Moulay Najim, is online to discuss the issue. Hello, Najim.
Bonjour.
Good morning. How would you describe the campaign journeys now with just a matter of hours to go? Well, overall, no incidents were recorded in the path of candidates en route to the presidential chair. As you know, we're heading towards the home stretch of this presidential campaign. The candidates used all means to mobilize voters using different modern as well as traditional communication techniques. And as a result, people have grown tired of charming speeches promising some sort of mountains and wonders. While we can welcome the atmosphere in which the election campaign took place and the behavior of the 6 candidates, we can only deplore some rather vulgar language, gabs, that have never been reached on social media networks in Mauritania. And now to answer the last part of your question, which of the 6 candidates would be in the lead? Well, it must be said that it is difficult to give the name of a single candidate to Africanews viewers because there are 2 candidates who actually stand out from the others at the moment and who have mobilized more members at their respective parties. In any case, all I can say to you and confirm to our loyal viewers is that at a time when polls are putting the ruling candidates Mohammed, Ould, Sheikh Ghazouani in the lead, the closing meeting of the former Prime Minister's campaign, Prime Minister from 2005 to 2007, Sidi Mohammed Ould Boubacar, today in the capital, made an unexpected general mobilization and never attributed to an opponent of the ruling candidate 2 days after the election. To put it plainly, when it comes to popularity ratings, the 2 candidates, Mohammed Ould Sheikh and Sidi Mohammed Boubacar, are advancing side by side in popularity.
Najim, let us talk about human rights. Now, Mauritania has always had a poor record of human rights. Now, have the candidates made this an issue at all for conversation in the campaigns?
Well, you know, a society has had a long history of slavery, and which continues to be indexed by human rights organizations in the field of slavery, or its aftermath, with a kind of troubled and complex intimacy. A society which, despite some nuances, confines its women to a status of inferior subject to the authority of men. It is logical that respect for human rights is a theme dear to the various hearts of candidates. The candidate in power is the only one to make real commitments to respect the Manifesto of Human Rights drafted by Amnesty International in partnership with some 30 non-government organizations during the election. But without minimizing some candidates, it is worth saying that all the candidates spoke about the issue of Haratans, descendants of slaves in the struggle against slavery, and which was the main focus of one of the 6 candidates, Biram Da Abeid. To hear them, these trips and meetings were very useful and extremely edifying, but the diagnosis is somewhat irrefutable. Poverty, justice, discrimination, slavery, shaken national unity, an unreliable school system, a poorly performing hospital, thirst, hunger, unemployment, low wages. The bill is definitely high. So in general, all this is part of the principle of human rights as defined by the UN Charter. Last question before I let you go. What security measures have been put in place ahead of the anticipated June 22 election? In fact, to predict what is to expect in terms of preparation and security for this election, we must first understand the stakes of this election and Mauritanians' record in terms of democratic experience. First of all, this election marks the first transition between an outgoing president and his elected successor since the overthrow of President Ould on July 10, 1978. So more than 40 years have passed, an eternity during which, apart from Sidi Sheikh Abdellah's brief civil break, 5 soldiers have held the position of head of state. Mauritania is one of the few countries in the world where the army has been in power for so long. Since 1992, Mauritania has had 6 presidential elections. Only one was concluded after a second round of voting between Sidi Sheikh Abdallah and Ahmed Dada, 2 civilians. In each of the other 5 elections, there was a military candidate for the Supreme Court, Colonel Ould in 1992, in 1997, and in 2003. General Ould Abdelaziz in 2009 and 2014. The country was shaken by numerous coups d'etat from 1978 to 2008 when Ould Abdelaziz, who was then a general, came to power. He was then elected in 2009 and re-elected in 2014 in an election boycotted by the main opposition parties. Today, at the end of the campaign and a few hours before the election, the 5 opponents of the ruling candidates are already denouncing the risk of a fraud. The opposition already foresees signs of an electoral holdup and warns that in the event of manifest fraud, we'll have to end it at that level. Thank you so much for the insight.